Hello, everybody. Welcome. We will go ahead and just get started. I know we've got a few more that will be popping on, but we want to respect your time and we have a lot of questions to go through. So welcome to our COVID-19 business Q&A with local experts. My name is Maggie Littlefield. I'm the operations manager for the Greater Beloit Chamber of Commerce. Before I introduce our executive director, I have just a couple housekeeping items to go over with you. If we have any media on the call today, we ask you to please call us directly to discuss the questions and responses from today's call. This call is being recorded as well, so we will be sure to share the recording and any resources that are provided on our website and also via email after the call today. So I'm sure that there are most of us that are professional Zoomers at this point, but for those that might still be a little unfamiliar or new to Zoom, there's just a couple features that I want to point out and encourage you to utilize for today, so that way you can interact with us and also the panelists. So if you take your mouse and just move it towards the bottom of your screen, you'll see a few different icons at the bottom. If you haven't done so already, if you click on chat, you'll see a little side panel that pops up, and this actually allows you to chat with anybody that is on the call, as well as send a private message. There's a little drop down box and you can select that person's name and you should be able to send them a private message. So just for a little fun and some practice here, make sure we're all awake. If you just want to go ahead and comment in that chat box, tell us what company you work for. We've got School District of Beloit, Society Carpet Cleaners, Baker Tilly, Smile Jeff, Fish Window Cleaning. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Okay, so now we got some practice out of the way. There's one other thing I want to talk about, and that is the Q&A button. So if you go back to your dashboard, you click on Q&A, you're going to get a little pop-up. This will actually allow you to submit a question privately. So if you'd like to remain anonymous and have a question addressed as we're discussing today, feel free to submit a question via that way. We will be monitoring that, and by we, I mean myself and Verena. She's also on the call, and we'll take a couple breaks kind of periodically just to see if there's any feedback or questions that you have submitted. We do invite you to utilize the chat and that Q&A as much as possible. We would love for you to engage and participate. We've got a lot of questions to go through, so we will do our best to get through everything. Just a quick recap, use that chat or the Q&A, submit your questions, drop any resources, feedback, insight, engage with us as much as you can. And with that, I will turn it over and introduce to you our Executive Director, Miss Amy Thurner.
All right, thank you so much, Maggie. Hi, everyone. I hope everybody is doing well. Thanks for bearing with us this morning. I think we have this thing down, though, so hopefully everything goes well. We are in new times, as you all know, and doing this virtual seminar is something that we really think is going to be helpful to our members. Again, my name is Amy. First and foremost, I hope that all of you are staying healthy and safe, and from your friends at the Chamber. We are, as a Chamber, working hard. We know what you guys are going through right now, but we are working hard to bring you the information as fast as we can get it, and hopefully today's panel can help to do that just a bit more. I'm going to go through our panelists today, and then I'm going to start with the questions. As Maggie said, there will be plenty of times to type your questions in. If you have any follow-up, we will do our very best to keep this thing rolling. So our panelists today, and let me just start by saying all four of these people and their companies are such huge community citizens, and we are so proud to have them as members. So thank you to not only the panelists, but also to your companies for allowing you to have this time away to help with our membership. First up, we have Kyle Mayer. He is a CPA senior manager at Baker Tilly. Kyle has been with the firm since 2007. Kyle's focus is to work as a value architect for clients, reducing tax obligations and creating opportunities through proactive tax planning and compliance insights for small and closely held family-owned businesses. Next up is Jeff Bowes, Senior Vice President, Commercial Lending for SENB Bank. Jeff joined SENB Bank in 2011, using his past business experience to assist both commercial and consumer customers. In addition to his work in the lending area, he is also assisted on residential mortgages. Next up, we have Janine Warner, Vice President, Human Resources, Blackhawk Bank. With over 20 years of experience in employee relations, labor law compliance, organizational development, and strategic development, Janine has been at the forefront of human resource initiatives that have promoted organizational growth and has a proven success rate of decreasing turnover while improving the overall employee recruitment process. And last but not least, Seth Frisbee, Employee Benefits Specialist at Tricor Insurance. Seth joined Tricor Insurance in 2016, bringing with him over 14 years of management and human resources experience with the expertise to holistically assist employers with their employee benefit solutions. Seth's community involvement includes a seat on the Greater Beloit Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and Government Relations Council, for Janesville Government Relations Council, and the Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. Seth is NAHU certified in self-funding and ACA compliance and is VBS certified for voluntary benefits. So with that, thank you again, guys, and I'll go ahead and start out the first question from our membership. We're going to begin with you, Seth. If you are on a furlough, do your benefits continue do you qualify for unemployment?
Good afternoon, everyone, and a great question to start off with. So this is really a two-part answer for this question. So if you are furloughed, before the COVID-19 process, you were usually given either COBRA or state continuation as your only option. Now, a lot of the fully insured carriers have really relaxed their actively at work policies. And along with that, as long as the monthly premium invoice continues to be paid by the employer, they're allowing the group health plans to stay intact for reduced hours employees, furloughed employees, or laid off employees for the short term. I would encourage everyone to reach out to their individual carrier, as each carrier has a little bit of a difference of opinion on this, but overall, we've seen carriers become relaxed on that. Now, if the employer is not able to continue to pay that monthly invoice, then it would resort back to offering an employee that qualifies for it, either COBRA or state continuation based on the size of the employer. For the second part of the question, for the unemployment is such an individualized process. I recommend everyone reaches out to the state that they're applying within for true advice on your current situation. But in general, yes, a furloughed employee would be able to collect unemployment. The benefit plan and how that continuation happens generally does not come into weigh on eligibility for unemployment status.
I should probably unmute myself before I start talking. Thanks, Seth, very much.
Thanks.
Okay, the second question is for Jeff. Jeff, explain the details of the next round of PPP and the timeline for the program.
Good question. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, I guess. The second round is still kind of working its way through everything, so it's not completely finalized yet. And as we've kind of noticed through a lot of the last 3-4 weeks here, sometimes last minute or even overnight new details emerge. But as of right now, the Senate has passed an additional $320 billion to go toward the Paycheck Protection Program. The House is expected to vote on that sometime today, possibly as early as early this afternoon. Then that would go to the president to sign off on. These are all things, to be honest, we are expecting to go through, though sometimes with government there are some delays. So we'd expect that all to get approved. The communication that we have received to this point is pretty minimal. But I guess in that regard, that to us, that means there aren't any changes to the application process, to the submission of the applications, and any of those things for this second round. The timeline is a little tougher to pin down, even if it gets, let's say, approved this afternoon by the House and the President. We don't know exactly if all of a sudden tonight or tomorrow or over the weekend or Monday. We're not sure yet when. As I said, we haven't received guidance on it. We're not sure when the application portal will open back up for banks to submit. We're hoping as soon as possible because most banks did keep taking applications after the first round of money ran out last week, Thursday morning. So we've got, there's a backlog that needs to get entered and get approved. So our thinking and our belief is once everything is approved, once that portal is back open, again, the funds are going to go pretty quick. It took about 13 days for the first $349 billion. I would definitely say we're expecting a little less on this. So we just encourage everybody, work with your banks, your credit unions on it, and have your application ready to go. That's a huge help in getting them in right away and being at the front of that timeline. But we're hoping to have more guidance on that after everything passes and the SBA passes it down to us.
Rainey, do you have a follow-up question on that?
I do, yeah. I'm just looking at the chat here. Jeff, is the second round only applicable to those who didn't receive funds in the first round?
Correct. You cannot get more than one Paycheck Protection Program loan. So if you already received one in the first round, at this point, unless they were to make changes to the program, which again, we have not heard that there will be any changes to the program, you are only eligible for one at this time.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for Janine. Will documentation be required for a business with less than 50 employees to be exempt from the Family and Medical Leave Act program? Oh, wait, I skipped ahead, Janine. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going too fast. Okay, so actually the question is, curious how employers are handling employees who are refusing or fearful to go to work. Great question.
Yes, it is a great question, and my clients at the bank here ask me this all the time. So generally, employees don't have the right to refuse to come to work, especially if it's just based on a generalized fear of becoming ill. So if their fear is not based on objective evidence of a possible exposure, then you can enforce your attendance rules. Now, that doesn't mean employees aren't going to be nervous or they're not going to have anxiety. So you as an employer, you need to keep your work area safe. You need to make sure that you have social distancing going on at work. You need to make sure that people can work from home whenever possible. But if they can't necessarily refuse to come to work. Now, if they are exposed, you need to take advantage of the Families First Act and keep them home and get your tax credits. And if you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to me and I can walk you through that process. But no matter what, always document. And if an employee does want to stay home, let's say just because they have a compromised immune system, or maybe their spouse does, or they have diabetes, something like that. There's just something that's worrying them. Tell them to go to their doctor. If they bring a note from their doctor that says they need to stay quarantined at home, then you have to let them quarantine at home. But they can still get a certain percentage of their pay, at least 2 weeks pay under the Paid Sick Leave Act, and they do qualify for the expanded family medical leave time. So, like I said, any questions on that, reach out to me directly. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll move on to that other question. Will documentation be required for a business with less than 50 employees to be exempt from the Family and Medical Leave Act program?
Yes. So when the temporary rule announcement was made on April 1st, the agency said that in order for small employers with less than 50 employees to be exempt, their businesses will need to meet one of three criteria. So the first one is the leave would cause the small employer's expenses and financial obligations to exceed available business revenue and cause the small employer to cease operating at a minimal capacity. The second one, the employer's absence or leave request would pose a substantial risk to the financial health or operational capacity of the small employer because of their specialized skills or their responsibilities or just their general knowledge of their specific knowledge, not general knowledge of the business. In other words, they are such an integral employee you can't do without. The third one is the small employer can't find enough other workers that are able and willing and qualified to do the job. So these are all on the Department of Labor website if you want to look them up. But here's the thing. If you are going to claim this exemption and you are a small employer with less than 50 people and you feel you meet one of these three criteria, you need to document that. You need to basically write up a document of which rule applies to you and be as specific as possible. And then you need to hold on to that documentation. Right now, Department of Labor is advising for 4 years. I personally would hold on to it for 7 years, but at a minimum, 4 years. Keep that documentation on file in case the Department of Labor ever comes back and wants you to justify that. Okay.
Okay, great, thank you. Next question is for Seth. Seth, if all employees but salaried have dropped group health, do the remaining premiums continue as a non-taxable employee benefit?
The quick answer is yes, but taking a couple steps back, for a organization to have proper authorization under the IRS to pre-tax premiums from individuals' paychecks, they have to have what's called a Section 125 cafeteria plan in place. At times, this can be referred to as a POP plan or a flex spending account as well. So if that is in place, then yes, there's no deviation if someone is a salaried employee or a hourly employee of who can participate in that. The one item to keep in mind with this, though, is under the cafeteria plan, individuals that are deemed self-employed, that are partners of a partnership, or if it's an S Corp situation, any individual that has over a 2% shareholder stake in the organization cannot participate in the pre-tax nature of the benefits. For the S Corp situation, that also includes that shareholder's family, basically their dependent children, spouses, their parents, and even their grandparents. So as long as none of those apply, yes, it would be able to continue as is.
Okay, thank you. It doesn't look like we have any follow-up questions on that, so I'll continue. The next question is for me. Somebody is looking for more information on the Rock County loan program. Very exciting news. Rock County has approved an emergency small business loan fund. It is launching tomorrow. If anybody's looking for a time, we are looking at probably by the time you wake up about 8 o'clock, it should be good to go. These funds will be given out on a rolling basis. Technology is not perfect, but there are lots of built-in sufficient bandwidth, and hopefully the site does not crash. I know that that's been a big frustration for our members, is some of these grants and loans that the sites are crashing the minute they try to get on there. So basically the purpose of this fund is to assist small businesses in Rock County that are experiencing financial difficulties, which is directly attributed to COVID-19. The maximum loan amount will be capped at $20,000. I'll give you the website for that on the right-hand side, or it looks like Verena, wonderful Verena already did, rocksbloan.com. There is also a summary link that is really great that James Otterstein put together at the county that really answers all of the questions you could have. So instead of me reading all of this, I mean, I'll go over a few points, but instead of me reading all of it, then you guys can go to it and really read through before it launches up tomorrow. And if you have any questions, of course, feel free. I'm going to be serving on a committee for this, so feel free to reach out to me at any time. This program is open to all for-profit private sector businesses in Rock County with 20 or fewer employees that have 12 months of consecutive business history in Rock County with revenues less than $1 million annually, considered in good standing, and that can document at least a 25% decrease in revenue due to COVID-19. There will be some that are not eligible for this loan, including hobby, part-time, home-based businesses, franchises, member-based organizations, foreign-owned establishments, nonprofits, government, religious institutions, and educational providers, to name a few. Like I said, the maximum loan amount will be $20,000. Interest rates will be capped at 2%, and loans will have a 6-month deferral period for principal and interest payments. The maximum term of the loan shall not exceed 5 years or 60 months. Like I said, there is a lot of information on this. It's a 2-page document, so please click on the link and read about it. Again, that website was rocksbloan.com, and the application is set to open tomorrow. Any follow-up questions on that, Maggie? I don't see any.
Nope, we're good here.
Okay, great. Moving on. Next question is for Janine. Janine, will there be any relief coming for employees that are still working? My employees want to be laid off because of the extra $600.
Well, the real simple answer is, other than the stimulus checks they've got or are getting, there is no other relief for them. You know, the Trump administration introduced the PPP plan to get employers working, to get employees working, to get people back to work. And that whole program is to encourage people to come back to work and not be on unemployment. So I know that a lot of your employees may want to be laid off because of it, but truth is, if you are an essential business and you are open for business, they have to come back to work if you have the work to give them. And I hope all of you are taking that PPP plan and using it. And I'm so glad they extended it. So really short answer is no. Stimulus check or come back to work.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the time in the presentation where I bring in a surprise guest. I needed a little help with this one, and of course, no one better than Mary Fanny Penny to answer it. How are local nonprofits navigating all of this? Has there been additional aid for them already, or is it coming? Mary, are you there?
I'm here, Amy. Can you hear me?
We sure can, Mary. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity to participate, and I want to give a quick shout out as a proud member of the Greater Beloit Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors for all that the Chamber is doing to serve local businesses during this time of uncertainty and angst. So thanks to you, Amy, and your team for all the information you are pushing out. With regard to the question on nonprofits, under the CARES Act legislation, nonprofits were eligible to apply for federal relief programs, and we've heard a few were able to access the Paycheck Protection Program via the Small Business Administration. Locally, both the State Line Community Foundation and United Way Black Hawk Region swiftly launched COVID-19 funds to provide nonprofits with flexible grants to address the increased demand for services. Many nonprofits have been incredibly nimble and innovative in changes to their service delivery models to safely respond to the needs of our community. But of course, they are in no way immune from economic hardship. Nonprofits have been hard hit by the cancellation of special events and fundraisers, revenue that comprises a meaningful portion of their annual budgets, as well as the loss of donor dollars. When workforce changes occur, such as layoffs or furloughs, those donors aren't necessarily able to be in a position to donate or fulfill pledges they had previously made. So leaders like the State Line Community Foundation and United Way will be encouraging our community to double down on their philanthropic support. Crisis philanthropy recognizes the need to provide immediate resources for triage, as well as the importance of recovery resources to ensure our community's resilience. If anyone would like more information about United Way's response, they can go to our website, liveunitedbr.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, for popping on, and the United Way and our community foundations in the area have really done a great job with keeping up on this, and there's so much information out there for nonprofits as well, so so kudos on keeping up with it all. We're gonna move on now to our next question. This one's for Kyle. Hi, Kyle, you finally get to talk.
Good afternoon.
Will the PPP funds forgiven be considered income and taxable?
So the PPP program loan funds that are forgiven will not be considered taxable income. That's unique. Normally under the tax code, debt that's forgiven or canceled is taxable income. And so they've made a special provision that the funds that are forgiven are not taxable here in 2020 when they go through that forgiveness process with the bank. We have a lot of questions around forgiveness and just the mechanics of the calculation, and are expecting more guidance in the next week or so as that 8-week covered period progresses for those who have received funds in the first round of the PPP program. Obviously, the next round, like Jeff mentioned, will be kicking off soon. So essentially, you've got an 8-week covered period in order to spend the proceeds of the loan on payroll costs, mortgage interest, utilities, which is a wide-ranging definition. There's some commentary that it might include things like fuel for business vehicles, telephone, internet. The banks are going to have to go through that documentation that's submitted down the road when the companies apply for forgiveness of these loans to work through all that. And those are things that we expect to be clarified in the next week or so. So again, rent, interest, payroll costs, and utilities are the main categories in which you can spend the proceeds of that PPP program.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. The next question is for Janine. Janine, what are your recommendations for your home when this is over?
Well, they're really not much different than what we're all doing now, but I kind of live by, and my family does, that we ditch germs at the door. So I've kind of forced everybody to have a process. As soon as they walk into the house, you just think that's your safe zone, your house. So any germs that you've brought in with you from the outside world, ditch them at the door. Shoes come off. Hands get washed right away. If you are bringing in something from the outside, you might want to consider wiping it down, or if it's bags of some kind that you can toss them out, in the garbage outside. Just keep those germs out of the house. You want to make sure everybody is doing a clean hands routine. Even when I have just somebody stop over at the house to drop something off, if they come in the house, they've got to go wash their hands. I make them wash their hands. And set up a cleaning schedule where part of your high traffic areas are going to be cleaned on a regular basis. Stair rails, handles, things, refrigerator door, closet doors, things that are opening and closing lots of times. The answer to this is, I think this has changed us all and how we look at the flu, and getting the flu is not a joke anymore, because we never know what kind. So really, I think most people, this has changed our worlds for a lot of us. I think telemedicine is here to stay. I think people that have never used it before are getting comfortable with it. I think working from home is going to be just generally more accepted by employers today. So just keep your house germ-free. That's the best advice I can give. Thanks.
Okay, great. Next question is for Jeff. What if our business is awarded 100K from the PPP and we only spend 20,000 total for payroll, rent, and other allowable expenses? Can we pay 80 back to the note and make payments on the 20 at the 1% interest?
As we understand the program right now, and as Kyle mentioned, we're still kind of waiting for official final rule from the SBA on how the forgiveness part is exactly going to work. But in a case like this, you wouldn't have to pay back that 20 grand. They are saying in a case like this with 100 grand, if we're talking for the loan amount, if you spend 75% or more on payroll and then the other applicable costs or the other expenses, as Kyle mentioned, that whole loan amount could be forgiven. If you spend less, our understanding is if you spend less on a lower percentage of that loan on payroll costs, then that forgiveness portion, it fluctuates. If you're only spending, in this case, 20% of it on the payroll cost, that 20% could be forgiven. And then in this case, with this question, if you're paying back the 80, you'd be paying back 80, the 20,000 would be forgiven, and there wouldn't be anything to pay back over that 18 months or to the end of the 2-year period at 1%. We did get guidance from Wisconsin Bankers Association. It was pretty straightforward as far as if just reminding everybody, anybody who has received one of these Paycheck Protection Program funds or loans, if you knowingly spend the money on something other than what the program is for, there can be repercussions on that, additional liability up to charges of fraud. When you're completing the application, you're attesting that what the program is for, you're certifying and attesting what you're using it for, and they do have to be used for those purposes. As Janine mentioned, the main point of this program is to bring people back on payroll and to make sure that people are getting their employees paid. So that is kind of our what we're trying to make sure to remind people as we go through this program. Hopefully in the next week or two, we do get more clear guidance from the SBA stating exactly how the forgiveness part is going to go, what proof we need, different things like that. But it is definitely something we're asking people to just make sure you're using those funds for what it is, and moving forward from there until we have clear guidance.
Great, Maggie, I think we have a follow-up question on that.
We do, yes. So this probably would be for Jeff. So in a previous webinar, this person learned that when spending the PPP funds, they need to be careful about paying expenses, including payroll, that are incurred during the 8-week period. So they have a utility bill due now, but not in the 8-week period. Can they pay this with the PPP money, and will it qualify for forgiveness? If you're able to address that, Jeff.
That's a good question. Without the clear guidance, I can only speculate on that. My understanding is that we get to the end of the 8-week period and we'll be asking banks and credit unions will be asking the borrowers for proof of what expenses they had during that 8-week period, the payroll during that 8-week, for what gets covered in there. I believe from some of what I'm hearing, again, it's not a final rule from the SBA, but the same would be, hours worked. If you get to week 8 and somebody works week 8 and then week 9 outside of that program, can you count those hours in week 8, even though you have not cut the payroll check yet till after week 9? My understanding at this point is that would count. It's the expenses in between that. So I would assume that would be kind of similar in this range here. If your utilities are during that time, you'd have that ability to use that. Again, we're still waiting on clear guidance from the SBA and an interim final rule from them on exactly how that goes. But that's kind of what we're hearing out of the SBA office at this time. So the biggest thing is just document everything. Obviously, financial institutions, we will work as much as we can within the guidance that we do receive to help everybody. Obviously, we want to be as beneficial and helpful to everybody as well. But the biggest thing is just document it, showing if there's a way to be able to tell, this is how much of that utility I used during that 8-week period. I would believe at this point that would be able to be used as a qualifying expenses during that 8 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Maggie, anything else on that follow-up before I move on? Okay,
Nope.
Thanks, Jeff. Next question is for Kyle. Kyle, when using the PPP program for paying employees, how does that work at tax times, monthly, quarterly, yearly?
So because of the frequency of this question, I'm guessing it relates to payroll taxes and how those would be remitted or paid in. I don't think anything changes in that process. Like Jeff mentioned with the last additional question, a lot of questions on whether this is a cash basis calculation or an accrual basis calculation, and how that gets to the forgiveness piece. But ultimately, processing payroll, whether it's through QuickBooks or a payroll processing company, I don't think looks much different, other than, what reporting are you going to have to provide to the bank down the road for that forgiveness calculation. So a lot of times if you're using a payroll processing company, there's going to be 2 withdrawals or debits from the company's bank account, one for taxes and one for the direct deposit amount. Neither of those 2 numbers are going to be the amount that you submit to the bank as it relates to the forgiveness, because there's other taxes and probably payroll processing fees that are included in those transactions. So more to come as we get more guidance from the SBA and Treasury, and then, hopefully some catching up from the payroll processing companies to be able to get us some customized reporting features that will give us exactly what we need.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Next question is for Jeff. Actually, the next 2 will be for you, Jeff. First one is, are there restrictions on the use of funds remaining unforgiven on the PPP loan?
We haven't, it seems like the recurring theme, we haven't got guidance on that yet. Again, our understanding is of the total amount of the loan you get, at least 75% of that have to go to those qualifying payroll costs. And then the next part of it can go to whether that's your rent, your mortgage interest, and then utilities, whatever that means. We don't know all utilities, what will be included in there yet. But again, I can't stress enough. I mean, Wisconsin Bankers Association has brought it out, and American Bankers Association, a number of organizations that work closely with the SBA, with the Treasury, have clear to make sure borrowers are using the funds for the intended purposes as the program is set up. Obviously, I can't speak to what the SBA would do if those funds are used for something else. Or if, let's, for example, just using round numbers, the 100,000, if you use 75% toward payroll, but then your mortgage interest and utilities don't quite total up that 25,000. We haven't been provided guidance on that, if that's going to be something where then those additional funds are just allowed to be spent on anything else, or if that portion of the loan then gets repaid back to the SBA. We're not sure on that, so I definitely don't want to give anybody the impression that if you got 75 grand in payroll on a $100,000 loan and you got 15 grand in utilities and rent or mortgage interest, that you can just take that other 10 grand and spend it on whatever else you want. We have not been told that at this point, so I definitely do not want to give that indication that you should just go do that. Hopefully we do get some more guidance from the SBA on exactly how that's going to work when they come out with the forgiveness portion, or the explanation and details of the forgiveness portion.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Looks like our next question was actually a repeat, so I'm going to move on. So you're off the hook for now. Next question is Janine. Janine, ideas to keep the workforce emotionally and physically healthy flow chart of what if someone contracts COVID-19 at work.
Okay, so that's a two-part question. The first part, I actually sent Maggie a list of resources that I believe she's going to get out to everybody on the call. It's a 3 or 4 page document. It's pretty extensive. It is a bunch, actually it's 5 pages. It's got sources for your employees on health and mental well-being, ergonomics, nutrition, prescriptions, financial assistance, caregiver resources, children learning at home, and everything on this document that I've sent to Maggie is free. So a lot of them, it's a trial. It's like a 90-day trial, or they're offering it free to everybody to, let's say, the end of May or the end of June. But there are probably easily 100 different sources on this document. I gave it to my employees last week and they love it. The feedback I'm getting from it is phenomenal. It's got everything on there from free yoga to meditation to things to keep your children occupied electronically, but yet they're still learning. It's got a lot of good things. So the second part of that question, that's a little complicated. I have actually had this happen, not here at the bank, but one of my clients went through it. And it's scary when you find out that one of your employees has COVID. So there's kind of a process that you should follow. So the first thing you need to do is you need to confirm that they're positive. They should have some kind of a doctor's note telling you that. Once you know for sure that they are positive, well, even before, you should get them out of the workplace. They should not be in the workplace. You need to send them home immediately. Once you have documentation that they are positive for COVID, you want to talk to them. You want to get a list of employees that they have been in close contact with. And when I say close contact, I mean anything within 6 feet. So if they, work at opposite ends of the building, just, pass by, probably don't need to worry about someone like that. But if they have close contact, you need to get those names from the person who is ill. You need to immediately disinfect the workplace. I would even suggest you consider a professional cleaning company to come in and disinfect the workplace. There's many methods they have that are better than just wiping down a computer or a machine. They actually come in with foggy machines that are with materials that will kill the COVID bug, if you will. The next thing you should do is you should get together with those people that have been in close contact. And, worst case scenario, it's everybody. It really depends on the size of your business, how many employees you have, what kind of quarters you're in. Hopefully, any of you that are in essential businesses right now and are still at work are enforcing social distancing. So here at the bank, our downtown branch, we normally have about 70 employees here. We're down to about 20, and the 20 of us are extremely spread out. I would say we're probably all 15 feet away from each other. So we really don't see each other. We're also keeping the doors open so that nobody's touching handles, even the doors to the bathroom. So the stalls, still have doors that we close, but the door to the restroom itself is kept open. So we're just really trying not to touch anything. So you need to bring in those people. You need to explain to them what has happened. It's very important that you maintain confidentiality of the person who is ill. Now, I understand that if you have a small business, 20 people, they all know one person's sick, they're going to know who's got it. But you are not allowed as the employer to say their name. You just have to tell them, you have been exposed to somebody that is tested positive for COVID. We would like you to go home, and we would like you to quarantine for 14 days. Please call your doctor, inform your doctor what has happened. Your doctor will guide you from there. Remember, we are not doctors. So, but they do need to quarantine. You can take advantage of the paid sick leave for someone like this because they've been in contact, they've been exposed, eligible for 2 weeks of paid sick leave, which essentially is not really costing you anything because you get to take it as a tax credit when you run your payroll. So other than that, being transparent, being understand that there would be a lot of anxiety, both for the person who is ill and the people that have been in contact with that person. So you need to be a listener and you need to be understanding and you need to follow up. I have a few people that have been exposed and are at home being quarantined because I have sent them home. I make sure that, twice a week I reach out to them and just check on them and make sure they're okay and see if they need anything. So that's my best advice to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Maggie, do we have a follow-up question?
I just wanted to add the document Janine she was referring to, her employee resource guide. We will distribute that after the webinar along with our recording, so you can see that document she was referring to.
Okay, great. We have a little less than 15 minutes left to go here. We don't have to use up all the allotted time, but I thought we'd take a couple more questions here from our listeners. But before we do that, I didn't know if any of the panelists have anything last minute they want to add that they thought of while listening to everybody. I know, Kyle, you may have another topic, but if anybody wants to just raise their hand and you can unmute yourself. And does anybody else have anything to talk about? Oh, everybody's all shy. Okay. Okay. So now, Maggie, do we have any more questions from the listeners?
I do not see any. I just put in the chat box if anybody has any questions to ask now. But I'm maybe can speak for the panelists and say if they're willing to share their contact information, we can share that when we put out the resources. If anybody wants to maybe speak directly to one of these experts, would you guys all be okay with that? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, happy to.
And I know that, there was a question that came through about, what can we be doing to, really try to get the business to get reopened here in Wisconsin. And, I tell you, I am on constant phone calls with our Wisconsin Chamber and our U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I've signed on to so many letters, I've lost count. My biggest advice is to reach out to your representatives, your state, your senators, your Congress people. Just reach out to your community partners, reach out to your chamber and your economic development, your visitor center, your downtown association. Because we're the ones that have those contacts, and we are always happy to send out information for our members. So, and no question is small enough to reach out. I mean, that is our job. We're here for our membership, and I know I speak for my other partners that they would love to hear from you. So, reach out to your local representatives about these topics.
Amy, we did have one question come through. It's in regards to unemployment benefits. What is the unemployment benefits percentage of an employee's wages being paid out? Is it 50, 60, 90%? Is anybody willing and able to maybe give some insight on that question?
I would just go back to what Seth said. I mean, really, unemployment is a very individualized topic, and it's going to vary state by state. So, being in the state line area, it's going to be different in Wisconsin, different in Illinois, different employee fact pattern by employee fact pattern.
Okay, thank you.
Maggie, go
ahead.
Oh, sorry, Amy. I do know, I don't know the exact percentage wise, and I know Janine had touched on the topic earlier about what the Paycheck Protection Program is on, and people wanting to rather being on unemployment because of the additional $600 a week. I know as far as the some guidance on the Paycheck Protection Program with respect to that. If you are trying to hire people back and they use that that reasoning that they'd rather stay on unemployment because of the extra benefits right now. I don't know how that plays on the unemployment side. I know what we've been told on the Paycheck Protection Program side is they are not matching up names. So if, for example, they were on your payroll back on February 15th, they aren't matching up that name. So if you have an individual that refuses to come back, in essence, they're giving up their job, I guess, and you can hire somebody else on during that time and pay them that wage so that they, so that you as the receiver of that paycheck protection loan still have that opportunity to put somebody to work and to hit that threshold of 75%, so you can get that loan forgiveness. That's kind of one question that has come up a lot in regards to that unemployment on that loan side. So they're matching up numbers, employee count numbers and payroll amounts. So that's what they're looking at is, did you keep or bring back to your employee count of what you had back in mid-February, and are you paying them the same? That's kind of the second part of that, is you can't have the same employee count as mid-February but cut everybody's pay by half. That's what they're looking at there. We're told they're not matching up names per se. I don't know how that plays into the unemployment side, unfortunately, but some guidance there or some help in regards to if you have an employee that says they don't want to come back on payroll because of the unemployment.
Thanks, Jeff. Amy, I'll just jump in here. Just have another question here. Does anyone have information on the SBA and the EIDL and its process? I don't know if that maybe is open to all the attendees plus our panelists. If any of you guys want to give insight.
I can jump on that one a little here too. Basically, the EID, the Economic Injury Disaster Loans, were the first round of stimulus that came out for businesses. Their direct program, the business applies directly through SBA.gov. There are no banks or financial institutions involved in the middle on that one. Like a lot of the things, there were some changes to the program as it went, and some kind of growing pains on it. But ultimately, the funding for that ran out as well. There is a part, again, from what we've heard, part of this next round of economic stimulus that could pass here today or tomorrow that would supply more funds toward that program. We've been directing everybody to go to SBA.gov to pull that up. As of right now, there's still some information on the program on there, but like I said, until they assign more funds to it, you cannot apply, but we've encouraged people to keep looking for when that opens back up again. Part of it is there is a forgivable $10,000 advance for businesses on that program. So we understand the communication from our customers personally at SENB. The communication from the SBA has been a challenge, but people have received emails that their submission has been accepted. They received emails about the $10,000 advance, put in that information, and some of our customers have seen the $10,000 advance into their business accounts. So it is working through. It is maybe not the perfect communication that we all would like, but that program is going. We did hear that there would be an update. Again, the SBA trying their best, but that they would be in contact with everybody from that first round here in the next week to 10 days. I had heard at one point, I think on Tuesday. So they're trying to get back to everybody that has applied. And then hopefully with this next stimulus package, there's some more funds available there for people to get at as well.
Okay, great. We have time for one more question, I think, and then I'm going to do my closing remarks. Seth, the last question is for you. I know you have to jump off, so I'm going to give it to you. Seth, have you seen any changes to group health care after this experience?
We haven't seen any changes yet. I think that the topic's a little bit up in the air for the fully insured carriers. Obviously, a lot of them jumped in feet first, even before the legislation came out, and they started covering a lot of the COVID-19 related testing and follow-up care with zero cost share to the member. Some carriers have even took it as far as saying that they're not going to charge back the plan itself for those charges. There's been talk on legislation to reimburse the insurers for the cost of COVID-19. At the same time, the cost that normally would be happening with healthcare isn't happening. Elective surgeries, office visits have died down a lot, so they don't know how that's going to offset. On the self-insured side, talking to our stop-loss carriers, if you are self-insured, they do not expect a large impact. I've been given, usually about a 1% to 2% increase based on the claims out of COVID-19 is what they're expecting for next year, if any.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm just gonna move on with just some closing remarks, some information for you. We will send out an email with all of this information as well. First and foremost, I want to thank my panelists. Thank you, Seth, Jeff, Kyle, and Janine. We could not do this type of stuff without our members who are so knowledgeable in these areas. We have, we have to talk about this kind of thing, but we also have to talk about how are we going to get back to business? How are we going to get back to it? And so that's another thing that the chamber is really going to focus on. We're talking about a projection of 27% unemployment in the state of Wisconsin. So, we're working closely with our state chamber to they're coming up with a plan on getting Wisconsin back to business. So watch for information on that. If you are looking for information, we are posting it as fast as we can get it. A couple resources for you if you're not already on them. We do have a Facebook COVID page for the chamber. It's called Greater Beloit Business Support Group Amid COVID-19. It's a great resource to share your small business specials and what's happening in your small business, and also a way for us to reach out to you. Also, our website has a special COVID-19 page, greaterbeloitchamber.org. That is updated as soon as we get new information. Also, if you are not getting our newsletter, that's a great resource, so please reach out if you are not on our newsletter list. That goes out every Tuesday. I think everybody on this call is a member of our chamber, but if you are a non-member and are interested in membership, we do some special emails to members, and we like to use our members for these type of things. So reach out to me or Verena or Maggie if you're interested in membership. I think that's it. So it looks like we're about ready to call it quits. So again, thank you all for attending, and please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Absolutely.